Alright everybody, so in the last video we took a look at this idea of the celestial sphere, we took a look at the sky map, we took a look at the planisphere, that adjustable sky map essentially that could be adjusted for any day and month of the year. What I'd like you to do, this is going to be a short video, I'm intending it to be a short video anyway, just a few minutes, but what I want you to do is get yourself set up with Stellarium. Stellarium is a computer-based sky map, and we'll be doing a lot of work with Stellarium throughout this unit in the future. A lot of your labs and activities will be based off of using the Stellarium program. So I want to just show you how to install it, show you how to use it, and kind of just make sure that everybody's up and running with it before I start giving any assignments using it. So if you go to stellarium.org, this is the website that you come to, and you have two options here. You can download the program and actually install it on your hard drive. I would recommend doing that if you can, if you have the ability to do that. And if you're using Windows, you can download it for Windows. If you're using Mac, you could download it for Mac. I'd be surprised if anyone's using Linux or Beta, but you have those options too. But I would download it and actually install it onto your hard drive. There is another web-based option, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But if you actually install it on your hard drive, once you finish the installation, you're not going to be using your web browser. And I'm going to minimize my web browser, and when you do the install, you should have an icon for Stellarium on your desktop. And here's my desktop here, and here's Stellarium, and I'm going to pull up Stellarium. It takes a couple minutes to start up. But I want to show you how to use Stellarium, and there we can see it's opening up now. I think it works better as a program downloaded on your hard drive. It's just there's less lag, and the resolution, the detail is much better than if you use the web-based version, but we'll talk about the web-based version in a minute. So here's our program, and what we see is a model of, again, the celestial sphere. When you open up the program for the first time, it's going to by default set you to the current date and time for some location. Now there's two toolbars in this program, and we can see one on the left side of the screen. There's one on the bottom part of the screen. Now we'll talk about all these features as we go along. Now the first thing that we want to check is our location. Sometimes, by default, it'll open up to Paris, France. I'm not sure why that is. And then sometimes it'll by default find your closest major city, like Newburgh. So let's take a look. So I'm going to click on the location window, and we'll see a map of the world. And for some reason, it put us near Africa. So this is the view of the sky in that part of Africa. Not very helpful for us. So what we need to do is find a place near us here in New York. Well, all the major cities in the world are listed. Goshen is not on there. Goshen's too small of a town. But we should be able to find some other towns nearby. I think we could probably find Newburgh if we look in the menu. Awful lot of cities to choose from. But I believe Newburgh is there. Poughkeepsie might be there too. We'll see what there is. Surprised I'm not seeing that. Let's see. Newburgh used to be there anyway. New Albany, New Amsterdam, Castle. Oh wait, there we go. Okay, Newburgh, United States. There it is. Okay, so now we're in a place close to home, Newburgh, United States, and I'm going to close the location window. Things pretty much look the same because it was daytime in both locations. At night, the star patterns that we would see would be different. Now we have an S for south, and if I take the mouse, I can move to different directions. This is what our view would be like to the west. Here's what our view would be like to the north and to the east. And they're just putting in some background. It's just a random background. We can change the background to other backgrounds if we wanted to, but it really doesn't matter. Now we could see today, if we look to the east, Venus is out, but we can't really see it because it's daytime, but Venus would be here. The moon is close to the horizon. A lot of people think the moon is only out at night, but the moon is out in the daytime too. And the moon doesn't really look like the moon. One of the things that I've always found a little bit frustrating with the program, it's just a minor thing, but in order to get the moon to really look like the moon, we have to go to Sky and Viewing Options, and we have to go to Scale Moon. I don't know why it doesn't do that by default. Now we can see the moon, and we can see its phase, and we can see that crescent moon there. Now, one of the things that's very cool about the program, there's the sun, is that we could fast forward time. Now here we have a lot of features on the bottom toolbar, and over here are some forward and reverse arrows. So when we open the program up, it sets us to our current date and time, but we can fast forward time, and we can make it go a little faster. And as I speed time up, we can see the sun is rising in the east. It's moving across the sky. It's moving across the southern half of the sky, and we've got some warpage and distortion there, but as I look to the west, we can see as the day goes on, the sun is going to set in the west. And you guys know the sun generally rises in the east and sets in the west. So the sun's going down in the western part of the sky, and then we'll move into dusk and sunset, evening, and now we're starting to see some stars and the moon. Here's Venus. So if you were to go outside tonight and look in the western part of the sky, you should see the planet Venus, one of the brightest things in the sky. It looks like a bright star, but it's actually the planet Venus. We can see some other stars: Capella, Betelgeuse, Sirius. Betelgeuse might sound funny. It actually stems from, I believe, Arabic, and has nothing to do with beetles or juice. We've got our moon, our crescent moon there. And if we zoom out a little bit more and look, here we have our view to the north. And we had talked about finding Polaris, and I think we'll do that in a minute. Here's our view to the east, and our view to the south. Remember, things look the worst near the horizon, and we could see this light pollution here. Light pollution is just light from cities and towns. You can see it's a little worse over here. If you're looking out toward Middletown, you'll see a lot of haze and light. We even have some light pollution from Poughkeepsie and even New York City. Even though those places are far away, they still affect the amount of light we see. Things look best at the zenith point, which is straight over our heads. So if we were to look straight up, that's where our best view of the sky is. Now if we look here, we can see the outline of the Big Dipper. There's the Big Dipper there. Here are the pointer stars. If we follow those pointer stars along, we get to Polaris, which is the beginnings of the handle of the Little Dipper. Now you might be saying, well, where's the Little Dipper? The Little Dipper is right here, kind of hard to see. The Little Dipper is fainter than the Big Dipper. Now to help you, one of the things that I like about this program is if we go to the bottom toolbar, we can put the lines on for the constellations. Remember, the Big Dipper is not really a constellation. It's part of Ursa Major, Big Bear. And we could even add the names, and we can even add the artwork. And there's the artwork there, right? So we could see the artwork. We can see the constellations. There's Cepheus, Cassiopeia, the King, the Queen, Ursa Major, or Ursa Minor, Ursa Major, Draco, the Dragon, and so on. There's Hercules, the Warrior, Corona Borealis, and so on. So we can see a lot of these constellations and what they represent. You have to remember, the ancient Greeks did not have phones and TVs and computers, and they looked to the sky to tell stories, and they of course used a lot of imagination. Okay, so anyway, we'll take a look at more of the features that this program has to offer in future videos and activities. As I speed up time, and we move through the night, One pattern that we'll see is that all of the stars and constellations move, or at least appear to move, except for Polaris. Because Polaris sits over the axis of the planet, it doesn't appear to move. All of the other stars appear to move around it. And that's something that we'll talk about in future videos. I'm going to slow time down again, and let's take a look at some of the other features. These are grids for measuring that we can turn on and off, and that's something that we'll use later on. Here we could eliminate the ground. I wouldn't recommend doing that. That just gets kind of confusing. You can't see constellations that are below the ground anyway. But I'll just show you the other things. Here are our cardinal points, our compass points. Here we have the atmosphere. If we didn't have an atmosphere, we'd be able to see a lot more in space, and it's much darker. That's something you might want to turn off. It just makes it a little easier to see things. This is a more realistic view, though. Galaxies. We can turn on galaxies and other deep sky objects. These are things that are very far away, out of our solar system, and or out of our galaxy. And let's see, what else do we have? The equatorial mount is a telescope thing. I wouldn't worry about that. Night mode allows you to take this outside at night. Red light doesn't really affect our night vision. So if you're trying to use this program with a telescope, or even take a computer outside with you to try to find constellations, red light just works a little better. It doesn't interfere with your night vision quite so much. I'm going to turn that off, though. We can see exoplanets. Those are planets that are outside of our solar system. We can do meteor showers. Okay, we can see we've got a meteor shower in that general location, right? If we want to see something close up, a telescope view. Well, most stars are going to look the same, whether you see them through a telescope or not. They're so far away that a telescope isn't really going to change our view of them much. Maybe we'll go back in time to dusk, and we'll take a quick look at the moon. I'm going to turn off the constellations and look for the moon, which is up here. And if I wanted to see the moon through a telescope, I can do that. And that's what the telescope view would look like. If you do this with a star, and this is true of any telescope, if you look at a star through a telescope, it's going to look pretty much the same because the stars are so far away. This is satellites. We can see where satellites are in space and how they move through the sky. So we could do a lot of different things with that. Over here, we have our location window. We played around with that before. We have the date and time window. We can change to any day, time, or year. So that's very useful. We could go to any location in the world. So we could see the constellations in Africa or Australia or Germany if we wanted to. We have some sky and viewing options. Most of these we're not going to use. And I'll show you just a couple of features that you might have fun playing around with. Star lore is kind of interesting. Most of the time we're talking about constellations in ancient Greece, Greek constellations, but many civilizations had their own constellations. We could see what the Chinese constellations looked like. And they had a whole different set of constellations in ancient China. We could see Native American constellations and other constellation patterns. We could look at Egyptian constellations, and so on. If you don't like the mountains, you can change the landscapes to all kinds of different things. So we can pick a different horizon. This is a very basic horizon, right? So we can change the horizon around. Here's a search window. If you're looking for something specific, like Polaris, type it in, and it will bring you right to Polaris. And then these configuration windows and question marks you're not really going to need. So I'm going to close this out now. And I'll show you how to do the web one in another video. So that's all for now. We'll get to the web-based version, the app, in the next video.